Do you know why the sand along Florida's Scenic Highway 30A is so blindingly white? Do you ever wonder why our sand squeaks beneath your feet? Well, it's because our sand is made from quartz crystal. Yep, ages ago, in fact at the end of the last ice age, oval quartzite from the Appalachian Mountains was slowly pulverized and then washed down the rivers until it was deposited right here along Florida's northwest Gulf Coast. Under a microscope, our local sand doesn't look like dirt at all. It looks like millions of microscopic diamonds. These tiny diamonds are the only thing that stand between the powerful Gulf of Mexico and another local treasure, our coastal dune lakes. Coastal dune lakes are a rare natural phenomenon. Very rare. In fact, coastal dune lakes only occur in a handful of locations around the globe, including New Zealand, Australia, Madagascar, and right here in Walton County, Florida. It's believed that these lakes were formed 5,000 to 10,000 years ago. I mean, give or take 1,000 years. Most of the lakes are shallow, often just 4 or 5 feet at their deepest point. So, what exactly is a coastal dune lake? Well, it starts as a freshwater lake that's barely separated from the ocean, or in 30A's case, the Gulf of Mexico. It's separated by ever-shifting sand dunes. When the lake fills up to capacity, say, after a few days of heavy rainfall, the freshwater lake quite literally bursts through the soft sand dunes and gushes out into the open sea. When this happens, the burst can actually be quite violent. Well, violent may be the wrong word, but it's certainly very powerful and even dangerous. It's called an outfall, which is a winding trench where the freshwater gushes openly into saltwater. The tea color of 30A's coastal dune lakes is due to tannins from dissolved plant matter. When leaves and pine straw fall from trees, it falls into the lakes, seeping it, giving it that tannin color. In fact, locals sometimes refer to this outfall as pine straw tea, which is a nod to our southern pine trees and perhaps to our southern addiction to a tall glass of iced tea. When a coastal dune lake first bursts into the Gulf, the turbulent flume can last for hours or days before equilibrium is eventually achieved. Once all that built-up pressure has been bled off of the lake, the waves and tides begin the slow, repetitive task of restoring the sand dunes. During this transitional time, freshwater and saltwater commingle to create a brackish exchange and habitat. Sea life can now openly travel back and forth from lake to gulf, making coastal dune lakes something of an ecological grab bag when it comes to what lies just beneath the surface. It's very rare, but sharks have even been spotted swimming in our coastal dune lakes. Eventually, though, wave by wave, grain by grain, the sea repairs the dunes and completely seals off the lake once again. This process can take days, weeks, or even months. But it is this perpetual exchange and never-ending cycle that makes coastal dune lakes so rare, so extraordinary, so beautiful, and so worth protecting. Florida's Scenic Highway 30A is lucky enough to be home to 15 of these natural wonders, and they're each unique. Farthest to the west, the 40-acre Fuller Lake is somewhat inaccessible as it's part of the private Coffeen Nature Preserve located near Sandestin and Topsail Resort. There's no public access to reach Fuller Lake except through appointments made through Coffeen Nature Preserve. But if you want to experience the same sense of privacy, visit nearby Topsail Hill Preserve State Park. Take a long, winding, sandy trail west through the pine forests and ancient sand dunes until you discover Morris Lake. This is one of the most isolated and insulated coastal dune lakes in existence, virtually untouched by pesky humans. nearby lily pad-laden Campbell Lake is best explored by kayak or paddleboard, which you can rent through Topsails Rangers. From here you can see Topsail Hill, the 25-foot-tall sand dune after which this park is named. Stallworth Lake is located along the eastern edge of Topsail Hill Preserve, with the secluded Stallworth Public Beach access leading down to where Stallworth Lake frequently flows into the Gulf. There's not much parking here, but if you can find a spot, cross the boardwalk and head west along the shore to discover a magical solitude. The best way to view Allen Lake is while downing raw oysters and an ice-cold 30A Beach Blonde Ale at Stinky's Fish Camp. It's a 30A culinary institution. Now, if oysters aren't your thing, well, I'm sorry, because the next coastal dune lake you find along 30A is Oyster Lake. Local lore, in fact, has it that oysters even thrived here in these waters at one time. But if you're skeptical about that claim, as a fallback story, the lake is also vaguely shaped like an oyster shell. So we've got a story either way. Oyster Lake is easily viewed from Scenic Highway 30A from the bike path, and if you venture just off the path, there's even a beautiful bridge to really soak in the scene. Draper Lake is surrounded by private homes and estates, but the covered wooden bridge in Blue Mountain Beach offers some tantalizing peeks at this rare protected beauty. Once you safely ascend the summit of Blue Mountain in Blue Mountain Beach, which is a whopping 64 feet above sea level, you'll soon cross Big Redfish Lake and Little Redfish Lake. I'm not sure if the name of these lakes were dictated by the relative size of the lakes or the size of the redfish that are pulled from them, but we'll let you fishermen weigh in on that debate. As you approach 30A's oldest residential community, Grayton Beach, you'll cross the 12-acre Alligator Lake. Alligator Lake is mostly contained in Point Washington State Forest, but don't fool yourself into thinking this lake was named Alligator Lake because you'll find alligators here. I mean, that's absolutely true, of course, but let's be honest. You'll find alligators in every single one of our coastal dune lakes. The most famous coastal dune lake, here in Florida at least, is Western Lake. Western Lake's signature pine tree skyscape is a view that's hard to forget. So much so that the vista is routinely portrayed in paintings, logos, and photographs, the artistic kind, as well as the disposable selfie kind. To the west, Western Lake is bordered by Grayton Beach State Park, where you can reserve campsites directly on the lake. To the north is a 15,000-acre Point Washington State Forest, crisscrossing with trails for hiking, biking, and off-roading. On the east side of the lake is Watercolor Inn and Resort. There's a boathouse here where you can rent paddleboards and kayaks to explore Western Lake to its fullest. And to the south, well, it's kind of nice too. Further along 30A, you'll come to Eastern Lake. Surrounded mostly by private residential homes, Eastern Lake is popular with locals. The best place to soak in all of her glory is at Old Florida Fish House, another 30A institution. Scenic Highway 30A is home to some 25,000 acres of protected land, but perhaps my favorite state park here is the less traveled Deer Lake State Park, home to Deer Lake. While you can sneak a peek at Deer Lake from the bridge, do yourself a favor and pull into the parking lot and hike the long boardwalk out across the rolling dunes. From here, you'll enjoy views of Deer Lake that few bother to experience. Camp Creek Lake is surrounded by state park, state forest, and the uber-exclusive residential community known as Watersound Beach. The stately homes here maintain a respectful distance from the shoreline, while an inspired pedestrian bridge provides out-of-this-world seascapes. Finally, just past Rosemary Beach and Inlet Beach, you'll chance upon Lake Powell, straddling the line between Walton County and Bay County. Lake Powell is immediately adjacent to Camp Helen State Park, and it's the largest of our local coastal dune lakes. When breached, she empties her fresh water into the Gulf right next to the remains of an old pier that once held fishermen and families high above the sea. So while our precious white sand isn't the only treasure you'll discover here in Walton County, these 15 coastal dune lakes are in fact the crown jewels that only add to an embarrassment of ecological riches. And they're all strung together by this little 2-lane road known simply as Scenic Highway 38.